This does not work in low elo because
maybe
people
this
are
rule
dumb.
is
And when I
useful, but
tried
it
to fake
doesn't work
rotate
in
with my
bronze
team,
silver.
the enemies
Teammates
didn't
just
even
don't
consider
listen
that
and
we
rush in
rotated.
when they
And
die
do you really
and
think
complain for
iron and
me
bronze
just being in the
SkillCapped
corner
this
waiting
doesn't
for
work in silver
How to
lobbies,
escape
as
low
people
elo is
don't
all
think
about
aim.
properly.
You need All right, we get it. You don't think that these tips work in low elo. Whether it's an eccentric reason like low elo players don't have nice microphones, or it's something as basic as low elo players are unpredictable, some players just really like to convince themselves it's impossible to rank up. That's why this month I'm going to be doing the impossible. I'm going to be ranking up a brand new account from silver all the way to diamond. But King, smurfing is the worst thing a person could ever do. Yeah, we know smurfing sucks, but you forced my hand, guys. Everyone is constantly saying we don't understand lower ranks, so it's time for us to learn. But to keep it fair, I'll only be allowed to play Astra, one of the most demanding agents of the game when it comes to communication. And what's that? Oh yeah, I will also have comms muted for this entire climb, meaning I can't talk to my teammates and they can't talk to me. You guys always complain that your teammates don't listen, so why should mine? Surely with these restrictions set, if I am able to hit diamond utilizing the same tips that we give you guys can accept that maybe it is possible for you to do it too. And just to make sure there's no speculation, I will also record every single game that I play and upload them to our brand new course on the website, where I will walk you through my thought process in each and every game and show you how you too can play around your horrible teammates that you have to deal with every single game. As always, everything on the site is backed by our rank improvement guarantee, so if you check out the site and for some wild reason we can't help you rank up, you'll get your money back, no questions asked. I get it. Sometimes it makes us feel better to pretend like everything is out of our control. But in this course, I will prove to you that it's not only possible to rank up out of any rank, but I will show you exactly how to do it. So if you actually want to rank up in Valorant, this is your best chance yet. Now, just so we're clear, there's actually 2 reasons why I'm torturing myself by doing this climb. The first reason is quite simply because I believe that SkillCapped creates the best Valorant guides that you can find anywhere on YouTube. I've been creating Valorant guides since day 1 of the beta, and trust me when I say I have watched some pretty dog shit guides. Heck, I've probably created a few myself over the years. If you upload hundreds of videos, surely some of them aren't going to be perfection. But it breaks my heart when I watch an incredible guide from one of our creators and there's always without fail someone trying to discredit their tips. It's probably just some kid in Iron who watched the video, queued up one game, and then lost horribly, only to leave a comment about how he stole his elo and he hates SkillCapped, but it's still frustrating to see nonetheless. That's the first reason I wanted to do this, because if this is what I've got to do to show players how to get out of elo hell, then that's what I'm going to do. The second reason though is because maybe there is some truth to these comments. I don't play in low elo often. Back in the beta, I was actually placed in Iron, but I haven't really done the full climb since then. To be clear, I don't think that little Timmy who's commenting on our videos is actually applying all of the advice we're giving him. I think he's probably just bad at the game, but maybe there is something I'm missing that I really need to put myself in the shoes of a silver player to realize. Spoiler alert, there was something I was missing, and after realizing it, it was incredibly eye-opening for me and has even helped me in playing on my matches on my main account in Immortal right now. Before I spoil the secret though, I do want to talk about the elephant in the room. Obviously, an Immortal ranked player is going to have an aim advantage in silver elo. While from these clips, you'll notice my aim isn't always perfection, I will admit there are definitely times where my aim really did shine. Something that is very important to recognize though is that there are quite literally players who are stuck in platinum with better aim than me. What's really important is that for all of these clips where we've shown you where my aim seemed exceptional, there are very conscious things that I'm doing that are helping me land those shots. For example, let's start out with this first clutch.
Smoking spawn for our teammates, staying alive. I want to help our Sage.
Last player standing.
Could be close to me. So they haven't tapped it yet. So I'm just going to hold. This guy could flash. So I kind of want to play close to this pillar. And they're not on because I sucked them off of it. I'm going to wide swing. Nice.
In this round, as you saw, I got 4 kills. The first kill was on a player who took the teleporter and didn't expect me to be mid. In this round, our team was taking site, and I had already placed down smokes for them, and I was just holding flank because we didn't have any tripwires. In most of my games, you'll find that I just played more of a babysitter role for my team. I covered everything that they weren't covering and let them run around like they were children in preschool. The thing that I really like about this position is that it's not really risking much. My teammates are welcome to take whatever fights that they want, but as we mentioned earlier, my biggest strength isn't my aim. My biggest strength is my game sense. That's why if you watch my games, you'll notice that I rarely take a fair fight. Notice how when this Viper takes the teleporter, I quickly duck into cover to make sure that if she swings out of the teleporter attempting to clear mid, she won't see me right away. Unfortunately, my fade was in her line of sight, so some people might think that I baited her, but in reality, there was not really anything I could have done to prevent this kill. What should have happened is the fade can duck into cover when she hears the teleporter, and then we can both swing when I would actually have an angle on the Viper. But she's silver, so of course she's not going to do that. Luckily, due to my positioning and timing of my peak, Viper is looking towards market when I swing her and not looking towards me. But now we're in a 2v3 and my Sage is alone on site. This isn't a great position for either of us, and just judging by the numbers, I'm pretty sure my Sage is about to die. That's why you'll see I quickly rotate back around, popping my elbow smoke along the way, and then as soon as I get long, I started looking for a duel to help our Sage out. Because all of the attention is on our Sage, I'm able to pick up a trade kill onto the Killjoy to make this round into a 1v2. Now, we're still down in numbers though, and as we've discussed in our past videos, you'll notice I once again will be looking for another duel. I want to be careful not to overcommit though, because if I swing too wide, I might expose myself to both enemies at once, which would be bad. That's why you'll see I jiggle and then I immediately fall back and place a star on the spike. This star is going to be a blessing for me as I can use it to buy myself more time in this 1v2 so that I don't need to take as many risks. This is why after placing this star, you'll notice I immediately stop peeking and wait for them to make the next move. I can only assume because I just peeked them that they are waiting for me to peek again since they don't tap the spike for a while. But as long as they haven't tapped the spike, I actually don't need to use my gravity well, because if they don't tap the spike, you guessed it, they can't defuse it. This is crucial because I want to use up as much time as possible. Now in a higher rank, what you'll actually see is that if there's this long period of time like this where they should be starting to defuse but they're not, what that generally means is that the enemies are pushing you. In this case, that likely would have been a good call, and that's why you'll see I actually start to tuck really close to this pillar on my left. My hope is that if Skye tries to flash around this corner to kill me, I could tuck into the pillar and give myself enough cover to dodge the flash. Luckily for myself, that doesn't happen, and instead they start to panic and make the incorrect decision to try to hold me. The reason I say this is probably the incorrect decision is because they had a ton of time on the clock to deal with me. They could have just pushed me together and traded out the kill and then dealt with that thorn in their side before going for the defuse, but when they have one player holding for me and the other player sticks to the defuse, what happens is it effectively makes this fight a 1v1 when I swing them. Only the Skye has her gun out ready for the swing, and on top of that, it took them so long to defuse, she even thought I had wrapped all the way around Hookah. Just to drive it home, I want you to notice how I even waited a few seconds after the tap to swing, and I targeted the chamber before even attempting to kill the Skye. The reason for this is because I wanted to eat up as much time on the clock as possible. Every fight that I took and every movement that I made was intentional, and that's why although I got a 4K in this round, none of them even really fought back. What I realized as I was playing in these lobbies was that although aim matters, what really was the make or break in these games was my ability to take as few risks as possible early on in the round, so that I can make sure that I was able to put myself in positions where I can outsmart enemies later in the round.
Just staying alive, that's all I gotta do. I stay alive until later in the round, we win, right? That's all I gotta do. The reason that this works, by the way, is because I know that I'm capable of making the right decisions. And if you've been watching our SkillCapped guides for like this long, you should probably know you are also capable of making the right decisions.
This brings me to the topic of this first video though, which is that playing in lower ranks is way too unpredictable. This is the main comment that we get on videos, and if you guys are looking for that validation, you are correct. Silver players are incredibly unpredictable. Not just the enemies either, but my teammates as well.
Oh, we're coming back A? This game's so confusing. This is why I'm not risking anything. It's because like these guys, they don't make sense what they do, right? Suddenly we're back on A, and it's like, well, we just threw a fake on A. Like, why would we come back A? Especially since I had comms muted, I had no idea what anyone's next move was going to be. That's why when you watch these games, you'll notice I'm playing kind of like a paranoid freak. I'm checking flanks constantly, and I'm only pushing up when my teammates are pushing up. If my teammates are creating pressure somewhere else, I might capitalize on it, but there's no way I'm entering onto site alone, because every game that I've played so far, they've shown me that they are not capable of closing out rounds. When you die in Valorant, and specifically when I die in this series, the worst part about it is that I lose the ability to have an impact on the round. At least you guys can communicate with your teammates, but for this series, I have comms muted. I can't. That's why you won't see me playing aggressively or taking aim duels early on in the round. I always try to break things like this down into statistics, so try to think about it this way. In the background, you'll see a round where I'm sitting outside of showers, listening to Reyna run back and forth looking for a duel. She wants me to swing her, and this aim duel could honestly go either way. I'd say it's probably about a 50% chance that I win this duel. That's not great, but it's still important for me to ask myself if those are the best odds of us winning the round. Because maybe depending on the circumstances, 50% is really good odds for us. If you're playing a round from behind and you can turn an unwinnable round into even a 20% duel, that's still pretty damn good. But at the very start of the round, when I have yet to do literally anything, I'd really love if my first duel was more than a 50% chance. If I had some form of utility to fight this Reyna, we might be able to turn it more in my favor, but as Astra, there wasn't really a lot that I could do. This isn't even factoring in the idea that not only as controller am I all of the smokes for our team, so I'm risking way more than Reyna taking this duel solo, but also since I am smurfing in this game, I am a far more valuable target to kill than this Reyna. Playing in these lobbies has actually been really eye-opening for me because I realized just how valuable staying alive really is in these ranks. We all know low elo players are unpredictable, but they're only unpredictable because they're bad. They make mistake after mistake, and as long as you're alive, you can punish these mistakes. That's why in low elo, I didn't really need to take any risks. The more you climb, eventually you'll encounter specific scenarios where you'll need to risk it for the biscuit. But in low elo, literally all you need to do is give people time to mess up. The longer I stay alive in the round, the more opportunities they have to make a mistake. Eventually, if you give them enough time, you'll find something to punish them for, and it will allow you to win more rounds. Finally, the craziest thing I've realized from these games though is just how much clutch potential there actually is in these rounds. As I mentioned earlier, these players make a lot of mistakes, and every second that the round is still going and you are still alive, there's still a chance to win the round. Take a look at this round, for example, from one of my Fracture games in a low platinum level lobby.
Got blocking vision. Out of the charges. Out of the charges. Killer. Out of the charges.
Last player standing.
Spike down B.
I killed them.
30 seconds left.
Well divided.
You should run.
I have the spike.
10 seconds left.
Spike planted. Pulling them in.
One enemy remaining.
This clip starts as a 2v4 where I'm pushing the enemy spawn through my smoke after some stuff went down on A site. I can't tell our Sage to come help me. I'm kind of just hoping that she gets the picture, but in the meantime, if I just wait for Sage to rotate over, we almost surely are going to get overwhelmed and lose. After swinging the smoke and killing the brimstone, I quickly move back to site. Pushing further would likely result in my death because I could potentially get peeked from 2 angles, so I back up out of canteen with the intention of repositioning towards generator. Unfortunately, because I only had 1 smoke, our Sage ends up dying to the enemy neon. This round looks horrible. I'm running out of time, and to top it all off, they have Killjoy ult. But as long as your enemies have time on the clock, they will make mistakes. Sure enough, here comes the Fade, full sprint, ready to boost her KDA. Unfortunately for her, I'm not horrible, and I just quickly pre-aim where she's coming from. To lower ranked players, this may look like a really good shot, but in reality, this Fade was full sprinting at me. All I had to do was place my crosshair towards Arcade and wait. After this kill, I know that I'm in a 1v2 and decide, hey, let's go for it. So I drop down my ultimate as as quickly as I can, and even though I'm low on time, I even wait a few more seconds for somebody to try to swing my wall. As I mentioned, much of my strategy revolved around just waiting for my opponents to make mistakes, but unfortunately this time, they don't. I see the Killjoy ultimate going off, and I kind of just assume the round is over. But the important part is, just because I assume the round is over, doesn't mean that I quit. Instead, I quickly asked myself, what would I need to do to win this round? Well, I know that for me to win this round, I have to plant the spike to buy myself more time. So before even thinking about my next step, I commit to the spike plant. At this point, if they swing me, I lose. There's not much more to it. Sometimes you're just going to have to take a risk. The great part about planting the spike here though, is that it gave me time to think about my next step. I actually didn't know when I started the plant if I even could escape the Killjoy ultimate, but I did know that for me to win this round, the spike had to go down, and while I was planning the spike, I started thinking about my next step. I noticed there was a small cubby for me to hide, and by taking advantage of this, I was able to fall off site and turn an unwinnable round into a potentially winnable one. From here, I played the round a bit too patiently. I placed a star on the spike and got ready to use my gravity well, but to be honest, I cut it really close. I was able to bring this round home with some decent shots, but the big reason I wanted to show this round is because I think the big difference between a silver player and an immortal level player is that rather than complaining about my teammates dying on A, I instead asked myself, what do I need to do to win this round? So often I see players throw their life away when it's a 1v3 or a 1v2, but if you approach the round step by step and you really try to do everything in your power to win, you can make some really awesome things happen. You might think that you need to do this every single round. You don't. Of course you're going to have to clutch up sometimes, but there were even games that I played in silver lobbies where I hardly fragged at all. But just being able to clutch up one round a game, not 1v5, but 1v2, can make a massive difference in your matches. For the people who maybe don't believe it's possible to climb out of low elo though, that's why we're doing this series. Because so far, it seems pretty possible. Nobody is holding back any secrets from you. It's all about how you apply what you learned in your matches, these videos, and how you adapt over the course of the game. Especially if you're a player who feels like they have exceptional aim, that should be super exciting. That means that you're already halfway there. Just by changing up your playstyle a little bit, you could see some massive results. Now, if all that requires is a little bit of brushing up on your mechanics at SkillCapped, if you ask me, that's a steal. First, I want to show you how important it is for you to be playing the game as perfectly as you can though. That sounds ridiculous, I know, like, haha king, why would I ever make mistakes on purpose? But even when I say that, I'm sure some of you are smiling thinking, yeah, sometimes I do be doing a little bit of throwing. In the past, I've been really lenient on this sort of thing. Sometimes it's fun to chase after kills and ego swinging people, but after starting this climb, I'm going to double back on this viewpoint. If you've ever heard the saying, practice makes perfect, you're only actually hearing half the story. The phrase many pro players will echo is, it's not practice makes perfect, it's perfect practice makes perfect. If you really want to get better at the game, you have to cut out this sort of trolling stuff. Many games are decided by just 1 or 2 rounds, and if you deliberately make a decision that you know is a mistake just because you feel like it, you're holding yourself back way more than you realize. It's more than just one game. It's not enough to know that you knew the correct decision. You need to practice making these decisions. Otherwise, it's likely that you'll make the same mistake in the future. For example, take a look at this round that I played during one of my gold level games. If you look up at the scoreline, you'll notice it's currently 9-4. We're clearly doing great, but after switching sides, we actually lost the pistol round. And the reason we do that is because it cuts off a lot of very important sight lines that a player could kind of like get information from. So we have the Spectre now, so we can definitely make work with this. I kind of want to follow the tools in. And notice we run and gun right there, make it more difficult for them to hit us.
Spike planted.
Last player standing. One enemy remaining.
Trinity, you're welcome.
As you should know, losing the pistol round generally means that your team is on a save and will likely end up losing the second round if the enemy team buys up and plays intelligently. This means if everything goes according to plan for them, they should quickly close out this round and turn that 9-4 into a 9-5. All right, that doesn't sound that great still, but stick with me. If they don't lose a lot of players on this bye, they can actually keep most of their Spectres and take them into the next round, which would then be our bye round. Most players refer to this as a bonus round. Now, although a team isn't favored in a bonus round, if they do end up winning it, they will have a ton of extra credits, rifles, and this will put the scoreline at 9-6. Not only that, but we would also once again be on a save round and will likely result in another lost round for us, making the scoreline way closer than we'd like it to be. Valorant is a game of momentum, and by winning pistol, you can easily snowball this win into 4, even 5 rounds sometimes. But everything I just explained is just the optimal situation. The bottom line is nothing is guaranteed, and if you fuck around too much, you might lose your advantage real quick. That's exactly what this Raze learned the hard way when she wide swung our entire team with her Spectre. I say this Raze learned the lesson the hard way, but the reality is she probably swung this angle, killed our chamber, and then went, I got mine, after she got traded. What she fails to realize though is because she pushed up so far alone, she ended up giving me a Spectre on my save round. I didn't buy anything this round, like at all. I didn't even buy any stars, but now I've just been gifted a Spectre and you're about to see what I'm going to do with it. Immediately after getting this pick, if we're being conscious about normal positions during the pre-round, what we will likely expect is that there will be one more player on A, there will probably be a player coming over from Boiler over towards screens to help, and this means that we will have a 4v2 on A site if we move quickly. Luckily for me, my Fade was using util to help us scale up on site, and rather than just watching her do this like many players might do, I want to put my freshly gifted Spectre to work. So as soon as I see my Fade's Prowler go out, I follow up behind it and scale onto site. Because I'm expecting one player on site, I'm not too caught off guard when I find the Fade back site, and I take advantage of the running accuracy on the Spectre to help me secure this kill. But wait, I'm not done. As I'm planting the spike, I notice my teammates are falling quickly, so I'm trying to get a grasp on what is going on in the round. By listening for info, I'm able to quickly determine that I might have some sort of an opening to wrap around back site, so I quickly start to do so. As Sage rained down from the sky, I was able to pick her off with a decent flick, and then without skipping a beat, I immediately grab onto the rope and start going up into nest. A site Icebox is easily one of my favorite sites in the game to be in clutch situations on because there are so many different ways that a player can approach it. You can go up into nest like I did, or you can wrap around the front side of nest, or you can wrap around the back side of nest, or you could even go through maze. Some players might even consider staying screens or wrapping around towards rafters. There are so many options, but by using some deduction based on timings, a smart player can make sense of all of these options and accurately predict where their opponent is. By taking the zipline, I have effectively checked off one option. Raze is not going up into nest because I am there, so she must be doing something else. The best part about this though is that I also can see towards the front of nest and I don't see Raze there either. Meaning that unless Raze went maze, which I felt was very unlikely given the circumstance, she had to be backside wrapping around on me. Sure enough, I'm able to drop down and clear her out, turning a round where I literally bought nothing into an amazing round win that essentially seals the game for us. Because as we said, winning pistol round is awesome, but if you lose the buy round after, you're back to square one. Now we have stolen the advantage. We have the guns, we have the credits, and they have to save now. And it's all because of one stupid play from the Raze. Not to say that there is nothing her team could have done after she died to win the round, but she definitely made it significantly harder for them to win, and that's why it's important that you are consistently making the best decisions that you can possibly make in your games. Because no round is a given, and at the end of the day, this kind of stuff doesn't just lose you rounds, it loses you games. Valorant is a video game, I get it. Sometimes you just want to have a little fun, and playing perfectly isn't always fun. However, if you want to rank up, you need to play as perfectly as you possibly can. This means if you know something is dangerous or a mistake, don't do it. That last clip was just one example of a good round throughout this series though. What I really want to make clear in this video is just how important one round can be. A lot of players believe for them to rank up, they need to be superhumans being able to clutch up every single round. I'm here to tell you that you really don't. You're going to have to clutch up sometimes, of course. That's part of the game, and if you're better than the rank that you're in, you probably should be able to clutch up in most 1v1s or even 1v2 scenarios. But by applying some fundamental rules, you'll be able to easily know how to clutch up even the worst of rounds. The first rule is quite simply, you heard it before, isolate your gunfights. You don't win 1v3s by dueling all 3 players at the same time. You win a 1v3 by taking 3 1v1 gunfights. The second rule is also quite simple. If you're down in numbers, you need to take a duel. If you give the enemies too much time to group up, it's going to make it a lot more difficult for you to find 1v1 gunfights. This rule is best applied during fast moments in the game. For example, you'll notice during this round, quickly after my Reyna died, I was able to find a fight onto the enemy KO who was swinging wide for no reason at all. If you give him too much time, maybe he eventually realizes that he's low HP and he shouldn't be doing this, which is also something that sets apart higher elo players from low elo players. A high elo player will get a kill and immediately know what the next step is. For low elo players, they may be able to figure out what the right decision is given time, but it will likely take them a moment to do so, and that's your best opportunity to catch them off guard. To showcase what I mean even further, you'll notice immediately after I kill this KO, the enemy team sets up a crossfire. This is the correct decision, and is exactly how you secure a 2v1. Remember our first rule? If I can't isolate my gunfights, it's going to be very hard for me to win the round. At this point, the round is seemingly theirs for the taking. Or is it? Recently, I was watching a video from our League channel where our content creator Hector talked about the idea of asking your opponents questions to see if they know the answer. These questions are asked by introducing threats to your opponents and seeing if they know how to correctly identify the threat and respond to it appropriately. 1v2s are a tough win, especially when the enemies set up a crossfire like I've heard my opponents doing here. But I still have 1 star available, so it's time to ask them a question. The question is, do they know what to do if I smoke off the crossfire and try to isolate a fight onto chamber? The answer is, as soon as Cypher sees this smoke go down, he needs to recognize what I'm doing and get ready to swing the smoke when I take contact with chamber. Chamber as well should likely recognize what is happening and try his best to stay alive until Cypher can swing with him. This means chamber also needs to tuck closer into the corner to give time for Cypher to get close to the edge of the smoke so that he can swing off of him. However, this is not what happens. Once the smoke goes down, chamber swings out wide before Cypher gets into position, and Cypher was too slow to push into the smoke, so he wasn't ready to trade out the kill. After chamber dies, it's not a good idea for Cypher to swing out of the smoke, so now the round slows down a bit. This brings us to our last rule for clutches, which is patience is a virtue. This is something I've learned quite a bit over the last year, and it's won me countless rounds. I can't express how important it is to be able to slow yourself down in these moments. Because although I've turned a 1v3 into a 1v1, I still need to close out this round. I knew that they were setting up a crossfire, and although Cypher was too slow to swing the smoke, I still think it's very likely that he at least made some sort of effort. This means although the spike is currently in the smoke, I can't go in there and get it. It would just be too risky, and honestly, I don't need to take the risk anymore. I have plenty of time on the clock, and the pressure's on him right now, because in about 8 seconds that smoke is going to fade, and at that point, I could be anywhere. So I just wait. In the meantime, I clear back sight real fast to make sure that he's not wrapping around on me, and then after I see that he's not there, it's pretty obvious where he is. Now, although I whiffed my first few shots on him, the thought process was all there, and I just really wanted to demonstrate how winnable these rounds are if you just apply the things that we teach you in our videos. I'm not some superhuman player that just clutches up every single round, but so far in this climb, I've averaged around 1 clutch a game, and that's helped me win a majority of my matches. Which brings me to my final point for this climb, which is that some of you are shouldering way too much responsibility in your matches. In our last video, I posted a screenshot of my match history through silver, and I match MVP'd pretty much every game. That kind of stuff didn't last in gold. I still played very well and pulled my weight, but there were quite literally some games where I just got carried. Not due to lack of effort or poor play really, just due to the fact that my teammates were hitting shots. We've talked about a theory before in our videos where we've said around 20% of your matches are guaranteed wins. Pretty much regardless of what you do, it's a one game. Maybe they have a lever, maybe you have a cracked teammate that carries you to victory. It would basically be impossible for you to lose. However, there is also an equal 20% of your games that are instant losses. No matter what you do, the game is unwinnable. You could play to the best of your abilities and it wouldn't matter. Maybe you have a lever, maybe the enemy team is the entire Loud roster preparing for a tournament. Whatever reason, the game is unwinnable. That other 60% though is what you're fighting for. Those are the games that you can have an impact and actually be able to sway them in your favor. Going by this rule, you may think that I have an 80% win rate on this account, but that's not actually true because I don't play perfect all the time. Maybe a top Radiant player would be able to pull that off, but I'm just an average Immortal player. Sometimes I miss shots, sometimes I make mistakes, and honestly, I'm still learning how to play no-calm Astra in this elo. I'm currently sitting around 70% win rate, which means I still lose about once every 3 games. I'm saying this because I want you guys to recognize it's okay to lose. In fact, you're likely going to learn a lot more from your losses than your wins. Over the course of the series, you'll see how I learn from my losses and discover the real secret to climbing in low elo.
What it takes to climb nowadays nowadays might actually be completely different of what it took back in the day. When I was your age, omens would teleport behind everyone and kill them because they just couldn't hear it. But nowadays, everyone has their turtle beaches turned on, and even plats will one-tap you if you give them the chance. It's a different game now, and I've learned a ton from doing this climb. If you watched our first 2 episodes, I went through some of the highs of the series, but today I want to talk about some of the lows. I want to talk about the most painful parts of this climb. The parts that made me want to pull my hair out. The parts that made me not just angry, but furious at the game. And not even just the game. The parts that made me not just angry at the game, but the parts that made me angry at you. King, why would you be angry at me? Oh, you know why. We'll get into that later though. Starting out with one of the first things that I noticed during this climb though, and that is that some of you may be severely hindering your own ability to climb in Valorant. Trust me when I say, when you force Astra into your comp for every single game, you see some shit. Specifically on the maps where Astra maybe isn't considered the best controller, it wasn't incredibly uncommon for me to see players on our team decide to force pick another smoke agent just to compensate for the Astra pick. They could have just not trusted me because I had comms muted, or maybe they just genuinely wanted to play smokes, or they were just upset that I picked Astra, who knows. But I'm almost positive in this specific case, our Viper didn't actually want to play Viper, he just picked Viper because he felt like you need Viper on Breeze. Lots of players have this mentality that the game absolutely needs to be played a specific way, and any players who try to do something off meta are trolling. But the reality is that as long as you've mastered the fundamentals, you can climb playing pretty much any agent. That's sort of what I was trying to prove with the series. I wanted to show you guys that regardless of teammates or agent picks, you can rank up by just implementing solid fundamentals and making good decisions. However, not only does this Viper player not have solid fundamentals, he also put himself in an uncomfortable position by force picking an agent that he doesn't know how to play. That her playing halls isn't very beneficial for us. She can like stall a push for so long if she's played correctly, but instead our Viper is just kind of like sitting in halls being useless, and it's like, it's really unfortunate. Because notice now we just got run over on B site because I can't play B because I have to play A, and it's like really awkward. If potentially we didn't have a Sentinel on our team to watch halls, then I could see maybe having a second controller halls would be a good thing. But when our Jett is soloing B site alone, this should be a clear sign to any player that maybe it would be a good idea to use Chamber Trip for halls and send our Viper over to B to anchor. But she doesn't have an improvement mindset, she has a hero mindset. Now, some of you are probably thinking, King, why are you being so hard on this guy? Because he literally rage quit the game. These people are tilting themselves. Nobody asked him to be a hero. I'm currently top fragging on Astra, and my Viper can't even hold his mental together for 30 minutes. Then, when we switched sides, not only did we win the pistol round 4v5, but we won the second round, and we won the bonus round. I think that this is all part of a bigger issue with many players, though, that I've already briefly mentioned, which is that this main character syndrome that so many players seem to have is a massive issue. Too many players are queuing into this game with the expectation that they have to have their entire team on their back, and all of the players of their team are literally spawn of Satan come to steal their elo. But this conversation really may seem like a catch-22 because in this case, it kinda looks like my team was the spawn of Satan coming to steal my elo. Not only did Viper leave, but later on in the game, Reyna left too. Clearly my team was the issue in this game, so obviously it's okay for me to blame them, right? Well, this is where most people would get lost on this whole improvement mindset thing. You should treat every single loss as if it's your fault. You never want to let yourself get away with blaming your teammates for a loss because there is always something that you could have done better. Think of it this way. Let's say I blame my team for this game. I just spent 30 minutes in the game. My teammates probably stole around 20 RR from me. I'm tilted now, so I'm going to have to take a break. And not only that, I'm going to have to win one more game to gain that RR back. And I'm also going to have to win one more game to gain the RR that I should have gained from that game. Not only that, but I'm also just as likely as I was before to get levers on my team in the future. This sounds like a lot of negatives in the match with very few positives. Now, try to think about it this way. I got unlucky. I had 2 levers in my match. It's kind of just part of the game. Sometimes I get levers, sometimes they get levers. It sucks, but it's not like it happens every single game. We were losing 3-8 though before my Viper left. Is there anything I could have done differently to make sure that we were in a better position so maybe she didn't leave? Well, there was this one round where I misused my Astra wall and it could have ended up costing us a really important round in our defense. Now at least I know that mollies are a big threat when using my Astra wall, and I'm more aware of this going forward into my next match. I also could take a look at this round where I over-aggressed just a bit when our team had numbers advantage. Granted, I don't know why their Sage would stay here with an operator when her teammates were already in our spawn, but in reality, this is why fundamentals are important, because fundamentals tell me that I probably shouldn't push this, and I decided to push it anyway. Had I just recognized that we had a numbers advantage and how important my life was, maybe we end up winning this round. By recognizing these things, I didn't waste 30 minutes of my time. I at least learned something that I maybe didn't consider before, which should actually help me win more rounds in the future. I'm still just as likely to get levers as I was before, but at least because I improved even a little bit, so when a lever costs me 1 out of my every 10 games, I'm still more likely to win those other 9 games that I get. When we tell players to accept responsibility for their matches, we're not saying that your teammates are never the issue. What we're saying is that blaming your teammates doesn't really yield any benefit other than just boosting your ego. In fact, in this Viper's extreme case, it probably cost her a whole game.
Last player standing.
Oh man, I'm getting flanked. Cool. Well, GG, I guess.
Defenders win.
Just get that game out of the way. Honestly, like, that wasn't much of a tilter, just as much of it was like just disappointing. it just sucks when you have levers because you don't even get a chance, you know? It's like our offense was going pretty well. If that Viper doesn't leave before offense, we could start to win. But everyone's like so afraid, or like, I don't know, they're so frustrated for whatever reason during the beginning of the game that it's just like they lose the game before they even lost the game, you know? He decided that he didn't want to play the game more than he decided that he wanted to win it, or like try to win it, try to figure it out. So, I mean, when did he leave? It was like round, maybe we were like 3-9, something like that. And he was just like, I don't want to play anymore, which is just, man, that's just disappointing. It's definitely a disappointing thing. Believe it or not, though, this was only the first thing I wanted to talk about in this video, because the thing that really annoyed me during this climb actually has to do with the reason that I started this climb, which, if you recall back to our first video, was because so many of you always talk about how your teammates just don't listen to you. While I believe that happens in some of your matches, the thing that annoyed me about this climb is that it did not feel like a one-to-one comparison to your matches. It felt far worse, which is fine. I get it. I'm smurfing, but just so we're clear, this wasn't fun for me. Sure, it was fun to push myself with a challenge and see if I could really do it, but Valorant isn't meant to be played this way. You're meant to talk to your teammates and coordinate with them. It's a team game, and even just having one teammate to work with can make all of the difference. But to put it plainly, this whole climb was incredibly lonely. It felt like I was playing a single player game, and it quite literally ruined all of the reasons I like to play Valorant in the first place. You all claim that your teammates don't listen to you. My teammates couldn't listen to me even if they wanted to. There are so many times throughout this series where you'll hear me just desperately trying to make callouts for my teammates, and I quite literally just can't. I would have killed to just have that 2% chance that they hear what I'm saying and react to it, but I couldn't because my comms were completely muted.
Last player
I
standing.
need her to scale up. You can shoot him through the wall. Oh my god. There's like, these are rounds that we shouldn't be losing, you know? So tough. This is what I think is weird. You know, like we're winning and then suddenly our Reyna wants to go mid. This happens like a lot. It happened the last time we played this too. Like, I don't think it's gonna work out well for her, but she can try. I'll even smoke deep. There it is, right?
Obscuring vision.
Doesn't really make any sense to me. No, don't go mid. Don't go mid. Don't, please. Stop it. So she could just tuck in that corner. She doesn't need to peek for more, but... I don't... Stop peeking. This is so bad. By trying, over time your comms will get better and it will help you win more matches, so you can climb and theoretically encounter more players who will also communicate. There are so many things I would have said during these matches had I not had comms muted that would have easily won us the rounds. I genuinely think the issue that most players are running into when players won't listen to their comms is that their comms aren't as good as they think they are. The fantasy of these super complex strats in matchmaking is just that, a fantasy. I didn't want to talk to my teammates so I could make these super elaborate strats. I wanted to talk to my teammates so I could say, hey, watch out behind you, you're about to die. There's not really such a thing as IGLing in ranked. The most you can really do is say, hey, our A push worked really well. Maybe let's go A. Or, I hear 4B guys, be careful, there could be one mid. I'm not trying to turn my teammates into the next professional roster. I'm just trying to make sure I've let them know what my intention is so that they can maybe play off of me if they want to. And hey, if they don't want to, I guess we can lose, but at least I tried. But the big thing that this climb taught me, as controversial as it may be, was that communication just doesn't matter in matchmaking. Maybe you could make the argument that it matters at the highest level of lobbies, but anything below Immortal, it may be a hard pill to swallow, but comms from your teammates are going to be near useless. That's the hyperbolic statement that I want to say anyway. When I'm reading hundreds of comments of players telling me how the tips don't work because people won't listen to them, that's what I want to say. The real truth is, communication matters, but not in the way that you think it does. The reason I say this is because you have access to an unbelievable amount of information on your own. All you need to do is look up at the corner of your screen to access it. To prove this, let's do a little exercise. Take a look at the start of this round and the positioning of my teammates. I have comms muted in this round, which means that you do too. Let's start out with my Chamber, Phoenix, and Breach. What do you think their intentions are for this round? If you had to guess, what do you think that they want to do in this round based off of their positioning? To me, this very clearly looks like these guys want to go A. They're all hugging the spawn barrier right in front of the path to A. They don't need to communicate anything for me to infer that they likely have intentions of pushing A. Sure, the round may develop over time, but going off of this information that they've given me, I should be prepared for them to push A. This means I should have stars in place in case an execute does happen, and if it doesn't, I can always pull them back. Not all controllers have this ability though. So if you're playing somebody like Omen or Brimstone, you need to make sure that you position in a way where if they start the execute, you will have the ability to quickly drop smokes and continue whatever you're doing. Since Astra is a very good lurk agent, that's why you'll see me positioned over here towards mid, because I can assist my team from afar while still getting value elsewhere in case their execute doesn't work out. But there's one more player on my team that we haven't talked about yet. So now let's take a look at Sage. What do you think her intentions for the round are? To me, I have no idea of what she thinks her intentions are, but I have a pretty good guess of what is going to actually happen. She's likely going to walk around and do jack shit. The reason for this is because Sage isn't really an agent that is going to do a whole lot alone on offense. She has no info gathering abilities, she has no global utility that will help her with lurking, and she has no flashes to force people off angles and create pressure. She would be much better off with our team where she can wall off the entrance to site, slow down the retake with her slow orbs, or heal teammates who take damage. I didn't need Sage to tell me she was going to be useless this round, I was able to put that together myself. But the big thing here is rather than asking her to adapt, I adapted myself. Even though Astra is a strong lurker, my team needs another body right now. This Sage is likely going to hurt my lurk anyways, so it just doesn't make sense for me to be here. That's why you'll notice I immediately peel off and go to regroup with my team. Now, although Sage should have been the one to do this, she's clearly demonstrated that she doesn't understand her role that well, so trying to get her to adapt just doesn't make much sense. If I were, say, a YouTube commenter, I'd probably just complain that Sage wouldn't listen to me, but that doesn't actually get me any closer to ranking up. You have to be the one to adapt to your teammates because you are better than them. I promise it needs to happen this way because they will likely not be good enough to adapt around you. Now that the round has progressed though, let's pause again. I want you to tell me from looking at the map, what do you think is the next step now? Well, if you're paying attention, you'll notice our Phoenix has ulted onto site, so immediately when I hear this, I should be throwing down smokes. This is a situation where comms can be helpful. If Phoenix tells me before he ults, I can make sure that my smokes are timed better. But it doesn't take a rocket scientist for me to look at the map and see my Phoenix needs smokes. Not only that, it also doesn't take a rocket scientist to look on the map and see that my Phoenix needs help. He just ulted into site solo and everyone watched him. Breach ran away, Chamber was too afraid to push up short, and that's why you'll see I quickly try to run up short and catch up to him. Because right now he's trying to make a play and I want to back him up as much as I possibly can. He didn't say anything to me, he didn't ask for help, but your fundamentals should tell you that if you see your teammate pushing into a site, that should be a red flag that you need to go and help them. Throughout all of this chaos, we were able to take site and set ourselves up in a 3v2. Now, I'm sure this sounds really difficult for some, but it actually is super easy to simplify. Take a look at this round that I'm starting out on mid on Icebox, and it's pistol round. I like lurking mid on Icebox when I'm playing controller because you can establish a lot of map pressure with just one simple smoke. This is also a great position to pick up kills on rotators or even just gather information, so this is something I do pretty much every single round, regardless of what my team does. Just to keep this on the topic of communication, I don't particularly care what plan my team has in mind. In fact, I would argue that comms could actually damage my ability responsibility to improve in these situations. That may sound wild, but the reason I might say this is because it's very important that you're constantly practicing the same strats in your games. The more you repeat the same plays and play the same positions, you'll start to learn all of the timings of that position and how to react in certain scenarios. For example, something I had adapted in my play this round is that I placed my stars before the round for my team to make sure that I could spend the least amount of time possible in astral form. In the past, I would wait to place my stars, as you may have seen in the Haven game, and it had resulted in me getting unlucky timings in mid and getting killed. But because I relentlessly made the same play and same decisions, I'm able to refine my play game after game. Now, this may seem silly, but think about it this way. How many times have you had a teammate backseat you? It's annoying. They're telling you how to play the game, and frequently the things that they're telling you to do are just flat out wrong. If I go mid enough, I can figure out for myself when I should go mid and when I shouldn't. I don't need little Timmy to make that decision for me. Now that we've gotten that out of the way though, I promised that I wanted to simplify these comms things for you, so here it goes. Right here, I see my teammates pushing onto A site, so I activated my stars. I was making sure to glance up at the map every few seconds because I knew that I would have to smoke soon. There are two reasons I normally look at the map. The first is that I have nothing else to do. If I knew that nobody could swing me, I'm just going to look at the map because there's simply nothing else that I can do. In this case though, it was possible for somebody to swing me and I was still looking at the map. This means that I'm looking at the map for the second reason, which is that I was looking for a specific piece of information. In this situation, I was looking to see when my teammates go in because I have a job for my team. Although I'm lurking right now, my job is still to place smokes, so I just want to make sure that I do that. I can do this without comms. All I have to do is look at the map, and right before my teammates expose themselves to these angles that I'm smoking, I activate them. And the map is always going to be the key factor here, because if your teammates aren't communicating with you, the only way that you can play off of them is by looking at the map and observing how they're positioned. To showcase this, let's run a thought experiment. As I'm running over here towards A site, we're going to blur out my map, and I want you to think of the decision that makes sense given what's on my screen right now. Without looking at the map, it's probably going to be pretty tough to make this call. Our spike is on site, so it probably makes sense for me to push in here, and even though I see my Reyna is running away from site, I'm not exactly sure why, until you remove the blur on the map, and now we can see our chamber is all the way through their spawn, and rotating towards B will almost guarantee that we win the round. Maybe it would be helpful for Chamber to say something here, but I don't really need him to. I know that when I see my teammates in their spawn, it's probably a good idea for us to rotate. And let's be real, how often are your lurking chambers ever really going to say anything anyway? Probably not very often. But by accepting responsibility for the round myself, I'm able to make these decisions and actually improve my own gameplay rather than just praying that I get good teammates. Chambers in kitchen. And Reyna's there.
One enemy remaining.
I'm so glad that Reyna won the fight. And that's the key thing that I want to touch on that was basically the theme of this whole series. Responsibility. Because all I hear from these comments of people blaming no-comm teammates is them just trying to deflect responsibility. But while they're busy deflecting, you can be getting better. Pay attention to where your teammates are positioned and how you can best assist them. Pay attention to where the enemies appear on the map and try to figure out how you think that they will rotate. You need to do this because this is how you become more aware. I don't ever want to hear players blame their teammates for not communicating something that they could have figured out themselves. This isn't to say that comms aren't valuable. Say for example, your teammate dies on flank and doesn't say anything. Because of this, you get shot in the back of the head and are upset that your teammate didn't call it out. I'm not saying that your teammate shouldn't call that out. Of course he should make that calm. What I am saying though is that if you expect your teammates in matchmaking to have good communication, you're going to end up disappointed every time. You can either sit and complain about it, or you can learn to look at your map more and get better at picking up on that information yourself. Sometimes I hate that Valorant is a team game because people take every single opportunity to blame their teammates. Back in the days of StarCraft 2, when you got medevac dropped, it was your fault that you didn't scout and prepare for it enough. You had no one else to hide behind. It was your fault, and either you could stay horrible at the game, or you could adapt and make sure that you never got caught off guard again. I get it. It's hard to be aware of what's going on in the round or the steps that you need to take to win the round. If you're really new to the game watching this video, you probably are wondering how players are able to think so many steps ahead. The honest answer is it just takes time. Accepting responsibility for your rounds will speed up the rate at which you improve, but at the end of the day, it's still going to take time. After 2 years of playing this game consistently, while almost always being in the top 1% of the community, I was able to make this climb in just 30 hours of playtime. I kid you not, some players that we've had contact us for coaching have less than 30 hours played total. Listen guys, I believe it's possible for anybody to climb to at least Ascendant, even playing semi-casually, but you've got to put in the hours. You've got to learn what the agents in the game do and how the maps are structured. You've got to learn how to move your mouse and what guns you like and what guns you don't like. If you have less than 100 hours in the game, how do you expect to compete against people who have not only thousands of hours on Valorant now, but they've been playing Counter-Strike for the last 20 years? Take it from me guys, I got placed in Iron in the beta. I remember when the game came out, it took me 2 games to unlock Omen, and then my first game ever playing Omen, I got queued versus Ninja. As arrogant as I was ready to kick his butt, only to realize that I had been playing League of Legends for the last 10 years, and he had been playing FPS games professionally for the last 10 years. I got crushed. It wasn't even close. But over time, I played the game more, and I got better, and more importantly, I recognized that I sucked. I'm not saying I'd stomp on him now, but I definitely hold my own. It takes time, and for me, it took a few acts to hit Diamond the first time, but I think if you really follow the courses at SkillCapped, we could help you do it faster. But my main point is that stuff isn't going to happen instantly. Let's talk about something that I also feel I proved during this climb though, which many players will talk about endlessly. I honestly don't feel like your agent pick matters all that much. We brought it up a little bit in the previous video for this series, but listen to the stats for this Astra climb. On Breeze, a map where people believe that Viper is the only playable controller, I won 6 out of my 7 matches. The match that we lost, we actually had 2 levers. That's just one map though. On Icebox, another map that felt a bit clunky for Astra, out of 11 games, I won 10 of them. On Haven, out of 7 games, I won 5. And going down the list, the only map that I actually had a negative win rate on was Ascent, which is actually normally my favorite map. So what do these stats say? Well, obviously there's no way I could technically prove it, but to me, basically what this says is that the agent choice didn't really seem to play too much of a factor in the outcome of the game. Granted, my sample size was relatively small, but in this case, this was the conclusion that I came to. Don't get me wrong, there are absolutely situations where Viper would have been better than Astra, and just because I went 10-1 on Icebox doesn't mean Astra is my new pick of choice on the map. I'm still going to play Viper. But even despite the agent's flaws on the maps, I was generally able to find ways to play them to their strengths and secure a round win. You could of course try to make the argument that maybe Astra is bad on Ascent, and that's why I had a negative win rate, but that doesn't even feel like a true statement to me. You will see plenty of pro teams run Astra on Ascent with great success. What my negative win rate on Ascent says to me is that maybe I don't really know how to play Ascent all that well. And I think that's the key difference between a top level player and a lower level player. When I'm looking at these losses, I'm thinking about how I could have played it better. I'm thinking about what it is about Ascent that makes the map so difficult for me on Astra other than a map like Icebox and Breeze. I'm thinking about the games that I played and if there was anything that they had in common that I might be able to use to figure out what my issue on the map is. But a lower ranked player isn't thinking about that at all. They're thinking about how they had a teammate in that one game who pissed them off and how they missed a shot during that one gunfight that one time. Good players think about themes and concepts and the reasons that they are actually losing the game, not those individual scenarios. Bad players think about the mean thing that their chamber said to them or the guy who picked Cypher on their team and then no-comped. At the end of the day, you've got to focus on the things that matter, and one of the things I hopefully proved in this climb is that your agent pick really doesn't matter. You can climb with any agent on any map, all that matters is how you play it. Finally though, I feel like the last lie that I disproved in this series is that ranking up is all luck, because it certainly didn't feel like luck when I was sweeping through the ranks. Sure, I had my fair share of unlucky games with levers and DCs alike. I even had games that I just didn't play well enough. But at the end of the day, I was able to make this climb, and I was able to do it pretty easily with all things considered. And if a silly little 24-year-old with boomer reaction speeds can make a climb while playing on Wi-Fi, surely you can do it yourself. That's going to wrap up the series, but once again, if you guys want to view the full climb and how I managed to weasel my way through the depths of Elo Hell, I uploaded nearly every single game of the climb in full to the website. Since I couldn't talk to my teammates, I took the liberty of talking to you guys and letting you know my thought process throughout each and every round. By watching me during the climb, I think that you'll find that I play the game in a completely different way than you do, and it results in me taking less risks and clutching out more rounds for my team consistently. You see, the key thing is, in low elo, you have to play the game completely differently than you would in high elo. Just trying to mimic high elo players will only hold you back. This is exactly the type of thing that we teach here over at SkillCapped. So what are you waiting for? We've got a link below for you to check it out, and other than that, my name is King, and we here at SkillCapped want to thank you all for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.